And we're back here on Inside IU East Sports, and spring sports are in full swing here at IU East and at the collegiate level, and it's time to talk about track and field. And joining me to do so, Justin Lowe from the men's track and field team. Justin, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I know we've had you behind the scenes a lot with our broadcast, but I don't know that we've ever had you sitting in front of the camera. So for our viewers that don't know, go ahead and tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, and why you chose to come to IU East.
All right, so my name's Justin Lowe. I run track and field, specifically the 400 meter dash. I am from Indiana, but all the way across near the Illinois border. Crawfordsville, Indiana is where I'm from.
All right.
So I came to IU East back in my high school season. I had a hamstring tear, which kind of lost me some confidence after state. When running the 400 meters, so I needed somewhere where I could gain that confidence back. And I'm also a person who doesn't like big schools, and IU East just felt like it was the right size, and the team made me feel like I could make a comeback, I guess.
Well, good. It's got to make the recruiting process a little more difficult when you've got an injury, right?
Yes, it does. When you're back in high school looking for colleges and they see that you went to state, and then they see that your regional time is, a low 49 and your state time's a 52, they ask a few questions.
Right.
And then when you tell them that you have a hamstring tear, none of them really want to mess with you.
Sure. Well, that's unfortunate, but it seems like you landed at the right place anyway.
Absolutely. I don't regret any decisions, and IU East is definitely the place for me.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about how you got started in track. How did you get involved with it, and was that at a young age, or was that later on?
Actually, I did not get started in track and field until my sophomore year in high school. I used to play golf. My family is golfers. My brother golfed in college,
Okay.
and I was kind of following in his footsteps when my gym teacher actually came up to me and bet me that if I could beat his fastest runner on the track team, that I would have to come out for track. So I didn't believe that I could beat the fastest runner on the track team, and I actually ended up doing that. So
All right.
I went out for track that year.
So you went out for track and fell in love with it then?
Yeah, it's a love-hate relationship.
Love-hate, sure. Just the running part that you hate?
Yep.
Okay, fair enough. Well, you are the conference champion of the 600-meter run during indoor season, and there's no 600-meter run on high school track. So how did you discover that this would be a good event?
Actually, last year, we didn't, obviously I was still injured last year, so I wasn't unable to run a lot of those indoor meets. And Coach Schmader just said, let's try you in the 600, let's see how you do. I ran a 600, and I ended up winning that meet that I ran the 600 meet at, and we just kept it through and almost made a national qualifying time by the end of the indoor season. So.
Okay, you also run the 400 and 600, and they're sprint events. They can be a little more difficult. How did you get involved in that?
Sprinting is something that I chose to do primarily because I just didn't want to run long distances at the time. Mm-hmm. So choosing the 400 was something that kind of felt like is in between. I'm an endurance type runner. I can hold my speed for an extended amount of time, so that 400 just fit me really well.
Okay, and how did you learn to specialize in those?
Specializing in it comes at a different cost. You kind of have to basically choose that this is the event that you want to do, mm-hmm. and you just repetitively practice 400 meters, or you see a lot of hurdle specialists who just run hurdles, and I just run 400 meters. And you break it down. So you break it down by 100 meters in the 400. So you work on this 100 meters one week, this the next week, and eventually you make it all the way around the track to get to that 400 meter mark.
All right. How did the indoor season go for you this past winter?
The indoor season was definitely a really good season for me. A little disappointing at the end that I was unable to make it to make a national qualifying time in the 600, but having that coming off of an injury season and coming back to having that really good season, winning conference in the 600 was definitely a big confident booster to help me in the outdoor season, because the indoor season is, I wouldn't say unimportant, but it's a little less important than outdoor season. That's our bigger season. That's where all of our records come from and what we want to do well in.
All right. And now that the outdoor season's underway, how's that going for you?
Not going how I wanted it to, but it's still going well. I've gotten some good times in the 400 down. We're getting down to those 49s here this week. I'm hoping to run mid 49s at the Little State. But other than that, I would like to be down in the low 49s, but unfortunately it's just not happening this season. Weather conditions haven't been the greatest. It's been pretty cold in Indiana this season, so luckily we've been able to go down south for a couple meets and get some times in some warm weather. Last week was pretty warm on Friday when we went to the Ball State meet, so got a good time there. So weather conditions are a little not satisfactory, but that's something you got to work through in track and field.
Right. Well, I've talked about it with some of our track and field athletes before, that obviously here in the spring, the colder weather does make it a little more difficult. But when you have to trade in that, does that make it easier when it is warmer out for you?
A little bit. I wouldn't say that it's more or less any easier for us to run in it than it is to run in the cold weather. It makes it a little easier to breathe. Cold air makes your lungs hurt a little bit more, and breathing in all that cold air just kind of wears you out. Plus, you're being in the cold, your muscles are always tight, so there's a risk of injury there. While in the warm weather, there's not that risk of injury as much, and it just feels a lot smoother. You have a little bit more confidence. You're not worried about, it's 40 degrees outside, and I'm gonna basically be wearing nothing while I'm running, and so you're not worried about that.
Right. So what's your training routine like, then?
My training routine is, unlike some athletes, track and field training routines aren't as routine. You kind of have to see what you ran and what parts of the event that you need to work on. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of go into practice with an attitude of, all right, I need to work on this. And for me, a lot of times I come back from a race thinking that my start right off of the blocks wasn't good enough. So a lot of the times at the beginning of the week, I'll start working on some shorter stuff and try to get some block starts in to get that quick reflex right off of the gun. And towards the middle of the week, we kind of go over some longer distance, kind of overtrained 600s, 800s, a lot of tempo type workouts. So we basically do two different workouts, where one is heavy on the speed, everything's really fast, short amount of rests, and the other one is more based on tempo. You want to keep hitting the same time over and over again, but it's for a longer distance, but we get a longer amount of rest.
All right. Sounds good. Best of luck this spring.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thanks for your time today. There you have it, Justin Lowe talking about the outdoor and indoor track and field season, as well as some of his personal records here at IU East. We'll take a quick break, come back and talk tennis next on Inside IU East.